You're listening to Murder Not Murdering with Erin,
And Autumn,
a true crime podcast about murder and murdering.
but we are not murderers. And we're back with Murder Not Murdering. Oops. Murdering. See,
start.
this is why. And we're back with Murder Not Murdering with Autumn.
And Erin.
Woo, woo. See, I can do it. I just don't want to.
You nailed it. I mean, easiest cold open yet.
With the murdering.
Very smooth.
I know. I was like, dang, girl, you should be on the radio.
Truly. Hi, everybody. It's us again.
The most fabulous duo ever.
That's it. That's us. We're back with some more crime for you.
Always with the crime. It's like never ending.
I mean,
I wanted to ask you because I watched it last night. Have you seen the new Elizabeth Smart documentary on Netflix?
I have not watched it.
It is so good.
Okay, I'll add it to my list.
Because, I mean, honestly, because that case has been covered and covered and covered, and she's such an advocate and she's out there and everyone knows her story. But the way they did this documentary, they had all of her family and her talking. It was just so informational. I really loved it.
That's good. I feel like sometimes when things have been covered so many times, I'm like, am I just watching the same thing again? But it's good to hear that it's different.
It was different. It was really good.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out.
It's worth the time.
Yeah. I mean, obviously when I watch a lot of crime things, they're always like a crime to remember, like all these old timey, crimey stuff. I don't watch a lot of the up to date things.
Well, you got to. I mean, 2002 was not yesterday, but
It feels like it sometimes. And then it feels
sometimes
like it was decades
100
and decades
million
and decades
years ago.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to hop right into our cases tonight because
Yes.
we have so much to tell you in our cases.
Yep.
I'm such a good host, guys.
Autumn
Look at
is
me be the lead.
killing the game.
I'm so good.
So, real quick, Autumn is going to go first this week. So, she's going to tell us about her case. And then I've got a nice little double murderers. You know what?
Ooh.
I did the Snowtown with 4 guys, and now I have one with 2 women murderers.
Mine has two. You know what? I'm not giving anything away.
Yeah, don't tell us anything. God, what are you doing, Autumn? We want to know.
I don't know. I'm going to make it suspenseful, maybe. We'll try.
In the next 5 minutes, you'll find out.
Yes. In the first 5 words. No, just kidding.
Yeah. All right. You ready?
I am. Are you?
Lay it on me.
Okay. This episode is about Ashley Kline. I hadn't heard about it before.
I don't know. I don't know the name by the name.
Yeah. So I'm not convinced you're going to know it either. So this will be informational. Before Ashley Kline was a name in a headline or a court document, she was just Ashley. She lived in Robasania, a small town in Berks County of about 2,000 people, just outside of Allentown, Pennsylvania, a place where people recognize each other at the grocery store and where routines matter. Ashley lived with her dad, Michael, and siblings, as her mother had passed away from a debilitating illness when she was younger. She had friends, she had a boyfriend, she had a social life with a small circle of friends. Her family described her as a petite girly girl, a friendly, outgoing girl who loved to help others. She was very close to her dad. Even as a 23-year-old, she would refer to him as Daddy. They would go grocery shopping together and just make ordinary tasks and days fun. And there's another part of Ashley's story that matters, not because it explains what happened to her, but because it shaped how the world interacted with her long before that night. When Ashley was very young, she suffered lead poisoning from eating lead paint,
My.
right? Like, this is something that actually kind of was very interesting for me. Her family was living in a very old home, and the house paint outside was made with lead paint. According to her father, the kids loved to go outside and play, and he was unaware that she was out there eating the paint chips. Apparently, white lead paint is as sweet as sugar and tastes like candy to children.
Oh my god.
I had no idea.
Me either.
Lead is very toxic,
I knew that part.
especially, right, especially to children. And the amount that Ashley had ingested was substantial. That exposure caused developmental disabilities she would live with for the rest of her life.
That's sad.
It is really sad. It didn't define her, though. It didn't erase her independence, her humor, her relationships, or her right to live fully. But it did mean that Ashley moved through the world a little differently. And it means she was more vulnerable in ways that aren't always obvious, especially in systems that aren't built to move quickly for people who don't fit neatly into a box. While in high school, Ashley enrolled in the local community college for classes in childcare. She wanted to make this her career. And after graduation, she would babysit for friends and neighbors and members of her church. Ashley adored babies and little kids, which is something that I have in common with her. In June of 2009, Ashley was in a committed relationship, and by all accounts, her family and friends adored them together. They complimented each other and seemed to make each other happy. In December 2013, they started discussing moving in together. And for Christmas that year, her boyfriend gifted her a beautiful necklace with both their birthstones in it. She treasured this necklace. Her best friend has stated that she believed that her boyfriend was going to propose to her in the near future. December 30th, 2013 was not supposed to be a day of any importance. It was just another night, days before New Year's, when people are thinking about plans and resolutions and what they want to leave behind in the old year. Shortly after 11 p.m., Ashley told her dad she was going to see a friend. She didn't pack a bag, didn't bring a phone charger, didn't grab anything that suggested she planned to be gone long. And that's important because this wasn't someone preparing to disappear. She walked out like someone who expected to come back home, but she didn't. At first, no one panicked because adults don't have curfews, because sometimes people stay over at their friends' houses, and because sometimes phones die. But as the hours passed and then the day, the lack of response started to feel heavier. Ashley wasn't answering texts. She wasn't returning calls. And then she missed plans she had already agreed to, including a New Year's gathering that she was planning on hosting with her best friend. They had been texting about this as recently as 11 p.m. the night of the 30th. And if you've ever known someone well enough to know that they don't miss plans and they don't cancel things on you, and that's a pattern that she would definitely not be breaking, it made people uneasy.
That makes sense.
I mean, sometimes I could be a little bit of a flake. So if I did that, maybe it wouldn't be so surprising. But
Yeah,
she
if
apparently
it were
is not.
you, I'd
I
be
like
like,
it when plans cancel. Let's be real.
it is her favorite thing. She's
But
like,
this,
"Oh, darn, can't make it.
and I'm in my
Sorry."
pajamas in like point 0.4 seconds. So
And a cat on your lap.
yeah, and a cat on my lap. But
Yeah.
Ashley, if she was going to be there, she was going to be there.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's a part of her personality at this point.
Hmm. Ashley's father went to the police. At first, he was told something that sounds reasonable until you really sit with it. Ashley was a 23-year-old adult. Adults are allowed to be missing.
Yep.
There was no immediate search, no urgent response, and no mobilization. Just the implication that maybe this wasn't something to worry about yet. But Ashley's father knew better. He knew his daughter, he knew her routines, he knew what made sense and what didn't. And he also knew something the system wasn't accounting for. Ashley had a developmental disability. So he went back, not just with concern, but with documentation of her disability. Proof that Ashley was vulnerable. Proof that she was not just an adult who chose to disappear, but someone who needed help if she was gone this long. Ashley's learning disability would place her mental capacity at age 15. So even though she was legally a 23-year-old adult, Ashley was not developmentally aligned with her age. Only then did urgency enter the picture. Only then did the response change. And that moment matters because it tells us how easily people like Ashley can be overlooked and how hard families sometimes have to fight just to be believed. Police began searching. Friends shared her photo. Ashley's sister created a Facebook page, Bring Home Ashley Kline. Ashley was last seen wearing a gray sweatshirt, pajama pants, a black puffy jacket, and pink boots. People kept checking their phones, waiting for something, anything to break the silence. And in moments like that, you live suspended between two futures, the one where this all ends with relief, and the one where it doesn't. January 2nd, 2014, more than 48 hours after Ashley went missing, there is a break in the case when someone in Adamstown comes across some belongings near a retention pond. A pink boot, a purse, with an empty cell phone case inside of it, and nearby, Ashley's ID. It was at this point police are tracking that this is not consistent with someone just leaving town. The fact that a woman would be without her purse and it be discarded in the woods was a red flag to investigators.
Most definitely. It's not like it was left at a
A
library or a
bar,
bar or
yes,
something.
or in
Yeah.
a cab or any of that, no.
Yeah.
When gathering the evidence near the retention pond, they also came across a Phillies baseball hat. It was black and white, which, if you are a baseball fan, will know that that is an unusual color for the hat to be, as the Phillies are a light blue color. So this hat was unique in itself with this color scheme. The investigators searched the field that the belongings were found in thoroughly, even using helicopters and cadaver dogs, but they were not able to find any trace of Ashley. As the investigation began to shift from where is Ashley to what happened to Ashley, police started with the thing that is so often becomes a silent witness in these cases, her phone. They pulled her phone records, hoping to trace a path, not just where she'd been, but where she might have ended up. If the phone had stayed with her long enough to tell that story, that is. And what they could see was movement. Ashley's phone wasn't stationary after she left her house. It traveled. At the time of her disappearance, her phone registered activity in the Reynolds area, which immediately narrowed the search and gave investigators something solid to build from. But the phone didn't just tell them where Ashley might have gone. It also told them who she had been talking to right before she vanished. Investigators noticed a call that stood out. A 3-minute call placed at around 10 p.m. on December 30th, just before Ashley left her house. The call came from someone Ashley knew through church. Someone who, according to people close to her, had been searching for something: redemption, guidance, meaning, and had gravitated toward religion in that pursuit. When police tracked him down, they learned something else. He had been romantically interested in Ashley, but Ashley did not return those feelings. She had been in a committed relationship for 4 years, and by all accounts, she wasn't looking elsewhere. Police went to speak with him. He told them he had not seen Ashley that night, that their contact ended with that phone call. Still, timing matters. A call placed minutes before someone disappears doesn't just get brushed aside. So he was added to their list of suspects. Not because they knew he was responsible, but because when someone is among the last to speak to a missing person, they become part of the story, whether they want to be or not. Ashley's long term boyfriend was also on this list, and detectives went to speak with him. He said he was in contact with her on December 30th. He was home playing video games, and they had been in contact for most of that day until her communication with him abruptly stopped. He had no alibi, as he was home alone playing video games. Detectives also learned that the day after she went missing, he did not show up for work. Red flag. Also, once Ashley was reported missing, he went over to her home and wanted to check her laptop and Facebook to see if he could see who she had been in contact with and what she had been up to. And after he did this, he changed the passwords on everything so that no one else could get into her accounts. Detectives were growing more suspicious as this looks like he was trying to cover something up. They're going down the list of close friends of Ashley's and interview her friend Ryan Schaunauer. He was a lifelong friend of hers. They hung out frequently. They were very close and very comfortable with each other. He was very cooperative with the investigators. He said that the night that Ashley went missing, he had hung out with her. He had picked her up. They had watched some movies together and that she seemed distracted. She was texting with someone the entire movie. He didn't know who. He said the night ended with him driving her back to the area where Ashley lived and dropped her off. Ashley said she was going to go to another friend's house in the area, so he dropped her off nearby. And that was the last time he saw her, walking down the alley, and that he had been in communication with her into the night after he had dropped her off. He even showed them text messages between himself and Ashley that went as late as 1 a.m. into December 31st. Ryan said that after he hung out with Ashley, he went to see some friends in the Reynolds area, and his car broke down. He called the tow truck, and there was actually video surveillance footage of this, but he remained on the list of suspects because he was the last person they know of who saw Ashley. On January 8th, detectives had the retention pond drained near the site where Ashley's belongings were found. They had a suspicion that she might be in the retention pond. Ultimately, they did not find Ashley, but they did find a keychain of hers, which is super strange. Nearly 2 weeks later, on January 12th, 2014, two hikers were walking through the Middle Creek Wildlife Management Area. It's a place people go to clear their heads, to walk, to breathe, to watch birds.
To
Not
find bodies.
That's exactly right. Not
No.
far away, they found a body.
Oh, I can't imagine. It's not only is it traumatizing for the hikers, but then obviously very sad for everyone else.
Mhm.
But
Uh,
imagine if you were the person that something like, I wouldn't be able to go on
mhm.
a hike any other time without thinking of
No,
that moment.
never again.
Yeah.
Ugh, honestly, it gets really way worse.
No.
Her remains were so badly damaged that identification had to be made through dental records.
Oh
And
my
just
god.
and just like that, hope collapsed into reality. Ashley had been murdered. Ashley's body had been burned beyond recognition. She was stabbed 5 times in her back, among other multiple traumatic injuries. Beyond comprehension, after the autopsy was conducted, they learned that Ashley had been burned alive,
Oh
as
my god.
they found soot in her lungs and an accelerant was poured over Ashley's pelvis.
Oh, I hope she was not alive when that happened.
She was alive.
Oh god, Autumn.
Isn't that the worst? That is, like, literally the worst part of the whole. I
It's
almost
an
left it out.
actual nightmare.
Yeah, it's horrific, horrific.
I hate that.
Monsters.
Monsters.
The district attorney's office withholds this information from the public. These details could help them uncover who killed her, keeping the details private so that only the killer would be the one with this information, which is pretty common in cases to keep a piece of that information private from the public. But my God. If accelerant was used, somebody most likely bought a can and a small amount of gasoline. So detectives are hoping that tracking down this could help lead them to who was responsible. So they start reviewing footage, spending hours and hours watching gas station surveillance videos to see if someone purchased a small amount of gas and a gas can. This pays off. They come across a man who bought $10 worth of gas and a gas can. And not only that, but he was wearing a black and white Phillies cap, just like the one they located by Ashley's purse. This man is identified as Adam Lynch. He is well known to the local authorities with a long rap sheet, including criminal mischief and theft. They ask Adam to the station for an interview. When questioning Adam, they ask him if he knows Ashley Kline, and he denies knowing her. They then show him the footage from the gas station of him in the hat that was found with Ashley's belongings. He quickly pivots and says, I didn't kill her. Ryan Shanahauer did. He says that after it took place, he went with Ryan to help conceal it. So he admits to concealing a crime, but denies having anything to do with the murder itself. Police are not convinced he's telling them the truth, so they call in his girlfriend Jessica to ask her a few questions. The interview was really going nowhere, as they were getting the impression she was afraid to speak. They take a break and let her go out for a smoke. They send out one of their female troopers to go sit with Jessica while she smokes, and she casually asks Jessica what Adam and Ryan did to Ashley, hoping that with this change of scenery, her guard would be down and she would give some sort of information. That's when Jessica turned to the trooper and said, they burned her.
Oh,
That critical piece of information had been withheld from the public, so right away the detectives knew they had their guys.
yeah.
Almost immediately, Adam and Ryan began pointing fingers at each other. They were desperate and blame shifting. Investigators recognized that tactic instantly. Adam, in particular, didn't just deny involvement, he redirected it. He told detectives that Ryan had been angry with Ashley, that Ryan wanted to hurt her, that he couldn't accept the fact that she didn't want to be with him, that she had rejected him, that she had chosen someone else. And in cases like this, that detail matters because rejection, when it turns into entitlement, can become something dangerous very quickly. Ryan, on the other hand, continued to deny everything. No involvement, no responsibility, nothing. So detectives did something strategic, something that often changes the entire temperature of an interrogation room. They played Ryan a recording of Adam confessing, not just to his own involvement, but to what the two of them had done together. And suddenly, denial didn't have much room to breathe. Because there's something different about hearing your name in someone else's voice describing things that you've insisted never happened. It was the moment where this stopped being a story about suspicion and became a story about evidence. Not long after that, both men were arrested. And then came the detail that would make Ashley's story painfully tangible again. When investigators searched Ryan's car, they found a piece of jewelry on the floor, just lying there. It was a necklace, Ashley's necklace, the one with her and her boyfriend's birthstones, the one he had given her for Christmas. The kind of necklace you don't casually take off and forget somewhere, the kind you wear close to your skin, and the only way it ends up on the floor of someone else's car is if it came off during something violent, during a struggle, during a moment when Ashley was fighting for her life. Both men were charged with homicide, kidnapping, arson, and conspiracy. At one point, prosecutors even sought the death penalty. In the end, both were sentenced to spend the rest of their lives in prison. And people often think that's where these stories end. But convictions don't bring people back. They don't restore Christmases or birthdays or quiet mornings that never happen again. They only draw a line under something that should never have existed in the first place. Here's what investigators ultimately pieced together about that night. And I want to say this carefully because the goal here is understanding and not shock. Ashley met up with Ryan and Adam, and the three of them drove around for a long time. At some point, they pulled off into a deserted area, and that's where everything changed. Ashley was attacked. She was restrained and she was assaulted in a way that stripped her of her safety, dignity, and control. A violation that should never have happened and never should be reduced in detail, and that's why I won't go into it. After that, they drove her to the wildlife preserve. She was forced out of her car. She was stabbed multiple times. And when they believed she was no longer alive, they tried to destroy what they had done by setting her on fire. But tragically, Ashley was still alive when they did. And that is one of the hardest truths of this case. Not just that she was killed, but that she suffered in a moment where she should have not had to be in that position at all. Ashley's father later spoke about the pain of knowing someone he trusted was responsible for his daughter's death.
Well, this is gonna make me cry.
It is pretty awful. And that kind of betrayal doesn't fade because how memory becomes complicated, kindness feels risky, and the past no longer feels safe. When violence comes from strangers, we can place it somewhere else. When it comes from someone familiar, it changes how you see everything. Ashley wasn't famous. She wasn't a household name. She was just a young woman living her life in a small Pennsylvania town. And that's exactly why her story matters. After her death, people began pushing for something called Ashley Kline's Law, aimed at better protecting vulnerable people, especially those with developmental disabilities, from violence and neglect. When I think about Ashley, I don't want to picture what happened to her. I want to picture a young woman talking on the phone with her boyfriend, making plans, laughing with friends, living a life that didn't revolve around tragedy. Because that's who she was before someone made a choice that took everything away. And maybe the most powerful thing we can do with stories like hers is not just to feel afraid, but to feel protective of ourselves, of each other, of the people we love. Because every person deserves to walk out their front door and come back home. Ashley didn't get that chance. And that's why we say her name.
It's okay, take a minute.
My sources were Text Me When You Get Home, ID channel, which, by the way, is, like, my new favorite series.
I was gonna say I've never heard of it, but it sounds like something you'd watch.
Yes, it's, like, my new favorite series.
It's also that's such a mom thing to say.
Yes, and I say it all the time.
Your mom says it to us all the time.
Yes, she does. Facebook, Bring Home Ashley Kline, Lancaster Online, WGAL, Reuters, Change.org, Reading Eagle, and NBC 10 Philadelphia.
Well,
Isn't
that
that
was
just
so
so
sad.
tragic?
Yeah, it's so sad. I was,
It's
like, getting
awful.
emotional. You're like, there's a I just so you know, I edited it out, but there was a moment where Autumn's like, "Are you there?" And it's because I was like, "This is just so sad."
It's like this it is so sad, but honestly, what a also, those text messages that piece of shit Ryan was showing the detectives, he had her phone and was texting himself.
That is just so fucked up.
Diabolical.
I hate it. And the manner of which they did everything too is just so horrific. I mean, that poor what she went through is just I can't even.
Like, the horrors.
The
Horror,
horror.
horror.
Awful, awful. That poor, poor girl and her poor family. It's already one thing to find out that someone has been murdered, but when you know that they suffered, it just makes it 10 times worse, I think.
I would agree.
Yeah. Well, that was really sad. Whew. Okay, then. Well, I'm going to take us back to the 1950s. So buckle up.
I'm buckled.
Good. This is, and I was going to give it a different name, but I changed it last minute. So this is the Parker-Hulme murder. And there are no French words in this entire case. So
Yay!
yay for
Normally
me.
normally, I'm not the one with the difficulty saying words, but I was having trouble tonight.
That's all right. You know, it happens to the best of us. It's almost always me. So just so you are aware, I mess up my words constantly. I'm also dyslexic and I'm reading.
Right, she has
So
an excuse, I don't.
well, you're tired. You've been working all day.
True,
So
I am
fair
tired.
enough. Fair enough. All right. So my case, like I said, is the Parker-Hulme murder. It's a pretty famous one too. So on the afternoon of June 22nd, 1954, a woman named Honora Mary Parker left her home in Christchurch, New Zealand. She was 44 years old. She was practical. She was tired. She agreed to go for a walk with her daughter Pauline and Pauline's closest friend, Juliet. They walked through Victoria Park along a narrow pathway bordered by trees and damp earth, a place where people walked every day, a place where no one expected anything extraordinary to happen. Later, when the police asked what went wrong, the girls said it happened suddenly. But that wasn't true, because this murder did not begin on that path. It began years earlier, in sick rooms and school corridors, in whispered vows and spiral bound notebooks, in a private world where two girls decided, slowly, deliberately, that they were above everyone else. Pauline Yvonne Parker was born in 1938. She spent much of her childhood alone. She was frequently ill, osteomyelitis, reoccurring infections. She was hospitalized for long stretches. Pain was a constant presence, but so was boredom and resentment. Her parents ran a boarding house. It was respectable, modest, busy. Pauline often felt overlooked. She later wrote, "I feel very unhappy and miserable. I'm quite alone." Pauline learned early to watch, to internalize, to fantasize. By adolescence, she was deeply introspective and emotionally volatile, like most teenagers. Her diary became a place where feelings weren't moderated, where rage, devotion, and contempt could exist without consequence. She did not see herself as ordinary. She saw herself as misunderstood. Again, kind of normal teenager feelings, right?
I've been there, you've been there.
Yeah, we journaled. We did it.
We journaled together. We had a joint journaling book.
We would leave it in a locker
Remember
and
that?
yeah, and then we would leave it was a composition book, and then we'd leave
Mhm.
it, and then if we were in class writing in our composition book, we looked like we were doing the right thing, instead we were passing notes through a notebook.
Passing notes, yep.
Yep. Okay, so Juliet Marion Hulme arrived in New Zealand from England in 1952. She was everything Pauline was not: confident, articulate, dramatic. Juliet's father was a distinguished scientist. Her mother was glamorous, distant, and often ill. Juliet learned to command attention early. She too was frequently sick, though. Tuberculosis had confined her to her bed for months. Isolation fed her imagination and reinforced a sense of specialness. Juliet would later say that she always felt apart from everyone else. Where Pauline retreated inward, Juliet projected outward. She didn't just imagine worlds, she expected them to exist. They met at Christ Church Girls High School. The connection was immediate and overwhelming. Teachers noticed the intensity. Other students faded away. Pauline wrote, "I love Juliet so much. She is my only true friend." Soon, even that word friend felt insufficient. They began spending hours alone, writing stories, watching films obsessively, talking about destiny. They didn't simply like one another, they validated one another. And that validation became the most dangerous thing either had ever known. Together, Pauline and Juliet created the fourth world. It was an elaborate fantasy kingdom populated by saints, rulers, and gods. And it had laws, hierarchies, moral codes. And most importantly, they belonged at the top. Pauline wrote, "We were both convinced that we have a mission to fulfill. We are superior beings." This belief hardened over time. Ordinary people, parents, teachers, classmates became obstacles, inferior, contemptible. Pauline referred to disliked adults as, and you'll like this, Autumn, dirty little bitches.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's nice. Her mother appeared often in her diary, increasingly hostile, increasingly dehumanized. She wrote, "I feel the hatred rising up inside of me." Fantasy became justification. Adults began to worry. Doctors suggested that the girls' relationship was morbid. Now, the implication here is unspoken but very clear because in 1954, homosexuality was thought up as a mental illness and it was treated with intense treatment. They are insinuating that the girls might start a homosexual relationship or might be in one. So plans started to be made. Juliet would be sent overseas, and Pauline started to panic. Her diary entries changed in tone, shorter, sharper. "If we are separated, I will die." Then it said, "There's only one thing to do." This is not a metaphor. This was planning. They discussed methods, timing, and Pauline recorded it plainly. She just wrote, "We have decided." The target was obvious. Honora Parker was practical, skeptical, and grounded in reality. She represented everything the fourth world was not. On June 22nd, 1954, the day Pauline Parker described as the day of the happy event in her diary, Pauline suggested a walk. Pauline had described how thrilled she and Juliet were by this plan. Naturally, we felt a trifle nervous, but the pleasure of anticipation is great, she wrote. They brought a brick wrapped in a stocking. We decided to use a brick in a stocking rather than a sandbag. I feel keyed up, as if we were planning a surprise party. This is sadistic.
Yeah, 100%.
You see, this isn't just about getting her mom out of the way. They planned, they built this up, and they were excited. Along the path, Pauline struck first. Then Juliet joined in. Evidence later showed that Honora had been struck at least 45 times in the head and neck with a brick. The girls did not run. They did not scream. They walked to the nearby tea kiosk at Victoria Park and then told the lady behind the counter that Pauline's mother had fallen and hurt herself. They said she had slipped. They said she was bleeding. The woman later told police that there was something off. There wasn't hysteria. There wasn't panicked. It felt rehearsed. Still, she followed them, and a man was sent to fetch help. When Honora Parker was found, she was laying at the base of a slope just off a walking track. Her injuries were immediately alarming. This was not a fall. Her skull was fractured. Her face was smashed. Blood pooled beneath her head and soaked into the earth. The responding doctor pronounced her dead at the scene. Almost immediately, the first quiet doubt set in. Because falls do not do this. If she fell and hit her head on the rock, you would find one spot of blunt force trauma. Her face was caved in. Police questioned Pauline and Juliet separately, but only briefly at first. They were children, they were girls, and they were tearing up. They both told the same story. Honora slipped. She hit her head on a rock. They tried for help. But when officers returned to the scene, the ground told a different story. There was no signs of a fall. Instead, there were multiple impact points, blood splatter inconsistent with an accidental tumble, a pattern of injuries that suggested repeated blows. And then came that brick. It was found nearby, still wrapped in the bloody stocking. That detail mattered because accidents don't bring weapons with them. At this point, the investigation shifted, quietly and deliberately. The girls were no longer witnesses, they were subjects. Pauline was asked again to explain what happened. She struggled, not emotionally, but narratively. Her story did not evolve in the way that truth accounts do. It stayed rigid, it stayed rehearsed. Juliet, when questioned, was articulate, but oddly detached. She corrected phrasing, clarified timelines that hadn't been challenged yet. Police noticed something else. Neither girl asked how Honora was doing. The last thing they said to the lady at the kiosk was that she had fallen and hit her head and that she was hurt. They didn't know she was dead, but they didn't ask not one time if she was alive. The turning point came not through interrogation, but through paper. Police searched Pauline Parker's belongings and they found her diary. At first, it seemed exactly like you would expect an intense adolescent journal, emotional and dramatic. And then they kept reading. Entry after entry described her hatred towards Honora, her obsession with Juliet, fantasies of elimination, plans framed as inevitability. One diary entry said, "Why could mother not die? Dozens of people are dying all the time. Thousands. So why not mother? And father, too." And then the final entry, written the day after the murder. "The day has come. The night before was very solemn. Mother was very trying. I feel the hatred rising up inside me. It was a divine satisfaction." There was no ambiguity, no metaphor, no confusion. This was a confession written in Pauline's own hand. When police confronted Pauline with the diary, the resistance collapsed quickly. Not because she felt remorse, but because the diary was truth and Pauline believed in the truth, her truth, deeply. She admitted to the plan, she admitted the intent, and Juliet followed. Their accounts matched not just in detail, but in tone, matter of fact, almost proud. Later, an officer would say the most chilling part was not the violence, but the girls' certainty that what they had done was necessary. This is when authorities truly understood what they were dealing with. It wasn't delinquency, it wasn't hysteria, it wasn't impulse, but a closed system of belief. The two girls had spent years reinforcing one another's sense of superiority, righteousness, and inevitability until murder felt less like a crime and more like a solution. The girls were arrested, they were charged, and New Zealand began to reckon with something it didn't want to see. The evil could be quiet, articulate, and wearing a school uniform. When the trial began, the courtrooms were packed. The prosecution read diary passages aloud. Jurors listened as the girls' own words condemned them. One exchange recorded in court. The prosecutor: "Did you intend your mother to die?" Pauline: "Yes." The defense argued shared delusion, but the judge was unconvinced. Justice Adams said, "This was not fantasy, this was deliberate." The verdict was guilty. Because they were minors, they were sentenced to detention at His Majesty's pleasure. After the verdict was delivered, Pauline, and this part chilled me, Pauline looked across to Juliet and whispered something, then they both smiled. Newspapers exploded. Headlines warned twisted schoolgirls, dangers of unchecked imagination, sex perversion, and youth. This is 1954. Female violence terrified people, and so did female relationships. This case turned into a warning tale about homosexuality, fantasy, youth corruption, and women stepping outside prescribed roles. The girls were less individuals and more symbols of that. Pauline Parker was released in 1959 after serving 5 years. Because she was a minor, she only served 5 years for murdering her mom with a fucking brick. I can't. Following her release from prison, Pauline was given a new identity as Hilary Nathan and spent some time in New Zealand under closed surveillance before being allowed to leave for England. As an adult, she became a devout Roman Catholic. While she has never spoken to the press, she has expressed strong remorse. In a 1996 statement released through her sister, stating, "Pauline committed the most terrible crime and has spent 40 years repaying it by keeping away from people and doing her own thing. After it happened, she was very sorry about it. It took her about 5 years to realize what she had done." Juliet Hulme and Autumn, you're gonna freak, left New Zealand after her release from prison. She had spent time in England and the United States, after later settling into Scotland and becoming a successful historical detective novelist under a new name, Anne Perry. She is not,
What?
yes, she started writing crime books. I can't. And she was very successful at it. She has not spoken much about the murder or her relationship with Pauline, other than to say that they were very obsessive, but not lesbians. Weird thing to put out there, but
Yeah, that's, like, super strange to clarify on.
well, they made such a big deal about the lesbianism in the papers and stuff like that. And so I think she was just clarifying that that wasn't their relationship. I don't know. Or maybe she was just denying it because she also was part of the Church of Latter-day Saints, and that's not allowed. Anyway, this was not a crime of passion. This was a crime of belief. Two girls convincing each other that love meant loyalty above life itself. And when reality threatened their world, they chose to destroy it. Now, this case might seem familiar because it would live on when the murder received wider public attention following the release of Peter Jackson's 1994 film, Heavenly Creatures, starring Melanie Linsky, and Kate Winslet. The film received an Oscar nomination for Best Original Screenplay in 1995. My sources were Wikipedia, New Zealand History, the Christchurch City Library, All That's Interesting, A&E, Sci-Fi, Medium, and the New Zealand Herald.
My God.
Did you know that one?
No.
It's kind of a famous one. A lot of podcasts have covered it. So I was like, "Oh no, she'll know it."
No, I
Because
have never heard it.
it's one of those things where you have 2 teenage girls that murdered a woman. It kinda stands out, you know? But it hasn't been done a lot. Like, there's not, like, tons of documentaries on it. There's been a few books. And then it became famous again in the '90s when that movie came out. But it's just kind of crazy, and they built that whole the 4th world and decided they were being kept from that, so they're so much better than everybody else, those little bitches, that they had to go and kill her mom. It's also in the diary entry, I don't know if you noticed, but she said, "So what if mother dies and father?" It's like, "Oh shit, you were planning on killing your dad too? Jesus."
That was news to everyone until that moment, apparently.
Oh my god, she was ready to get rid of old dad as well. It's just a pretty horrific, and, so often we see female poisoners. I feel like so that is a way with power and everything, we see that a lot. So when it is a violent death like this, it really stands out. And the fact that these were 2 teenage girls that savagely beat this woman with a brick, her own mother, I mean, 45 times.
That's
45 times.
insanity.
And I mean, I guess this must not have been a very populated park because I would assume you would hear something.
One would think, like, Jesus.
Because then they just walked over to the tea cart, so I don't know. But and then they were just like, "Yeah, we did it." They were, like, boasting about it and proud of themselves, and then they only served 5 years because they were minors. I think, like, the horrificness of that murder.
Yeah, I don't think they should be out. I'm just saying.
Well, one of them is still alive.
Oh,
Yeah.
go
So
figure.
but, it's actually the daughter, Pauline, is still alive, and again, like I said, she's changed her name, and she became a devout Catholic and is repenting or whatever, and
Oh, you
then
repent that girl. You
I mean, "Thou shalt not kill," my friend.
right? Like, you're and honor thy mother and father. Like, what?
Yeah, not hit them with bricks, my love. And
Yeah,
then
that's not the direction we go in here.
I was flabbergasted when I read that the other one became a crime novelist and really successful. I was like, What?" And then no one found
What
out
a plot twist.
well, they didn't find out that because it was a pseudonym, so they didn't find out that she was an actual murderer until, like, the '90s.
Jesus.
Isn't that crazy? She passed away in
Mhm.
2003, but isn't that crazy? Just started writing
Yes.
about crimes after that? I mean, okay. I guess write about what you know.
Mhm.
Yikes. Anywho, that was my case, and I can't believe we had some similarities this time. Team
Yeah,
murders
yeah,
teamed up,
teamed up.
and but mine didn't turn on each other. They were like, "Yeah, we did it together. It's our thing." I still can't believe it
I can't either. What the
when
hell?
I told you, it, like, creeped me out when I was reading about it and they said that when they said that they were guilty, they both looked at each other, whispered something, and smiled.
Creepy.
And then 5 years, that's it. You guys are good to go back out into the public world.
And become a true crime writer. This is real.
I
Me
can't
and Aaron have never killed anybody.
That is our whole podcast. We talk about murder, but we don't do the murdering. So there you are, folks. Good God. Although I will say, I don't know if I mentioned this on the podcast yet, but we went to my dad passed away and we went to his memorial, and At the memorial, I did walk away with a briefcase full of knives.
This is not a joke. She really
Not
did.
because not because my dad was a chef, but because he did have quite the collection of pocket knives, and my dad's friend had them to hold on to.
But the funny thing is that that briefcase full of knives has nothing on my dad's collection of knives, and my dad is
Yeah.
very excited for you. He's like, "Oh,
No,
she's got all these knives."
not only did I have the briefcase full of pocket knives, but I also left with a giant dagger as well. The funny thing, and they were my dad's, but there used to be more. But the funny thing about it is at my dad's memorial, we took a picture of me holding the box o' knives and sent it to Stabby Jim because
Mhm. Yes, we
because
did.
as our listeners know, Autumn's dad collects knives, and he was really happy for me.
He was
It's like
very happy.
I was like, "Okay, leaving dad's, memorial here, and I'm just gonna take my briefcase of knives with me." It's like, "Wow, dad, thanks. Thank you. Thank you so much." Oh, what a time. It was a metal briefcase too.
Yeah, it was. It was a metal briefcase.
I felt like I was smuggling drugs or something. I don't know. It felt very like 1980s. I was living my Miami Vice life. Anyway, I mean, who knows? There's probably drug residue in it. Knowing my dad. Sorry, dad. Anyway, enough of my true crime. We're going to be back next week. Do follow us on TikTok, mnm.pod, and we've got new videos coming for you. And then also follow us on Instagram at Murder Not Murdering. If you do have a case that you want us to cover or something you think you have a personal connection to, not if you're a murderer, unless you
Yeah,
want to give
please
us an
don't be a
exclusive,
right.
JK, then do reach out to us, DM us, and we will get right back to you. Thank you so much for listening to us talk and blabber and about my new knife collection. We will be back, new episode on Monday. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Autumn, you got anything else to say?
I think you covered it.
All right. We'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.